Okay, welcome. Today I wanted to offer a little reflection just about boarding school and abandonment and just how that plays out in our lives, and just some reflections on that from my own experience. So last week I went back to visit my family down in Portsmouth, where I'm originally from, and it was interesting. I see over the years, I really struggled with my family to connect, felt very disempowered, and this time felt, quite kind of ease, even though they've not necessarily changed. I see that my relationship to them has. One of the interesting things that came up for me was this idea about abandonment. So I feel that when we're at boarding school, there's this interesting thing which, Joy Chevron talks about this in her book, the ABC, Abandonment, Bereavement and Captivity. So I just want to touch on abandonment a bit and why it feels quite complex at boarding school. So for me, one of the things I noticed on Saturday morning, I was leaving my mother's house, and I just noticed this, this sadness. It was like saying goodbye to her, and lovely place, and she's not been down to her house for a few years, and I just felt a sadness there, and I realized that this feeling that I felt was the same one that I used to feel every 3 weeks when I used to go home for a leave day or a half term or holidays at school, and then I would then have to leave home. This feeling of abandonment, of it's almost something more than abandonment. It's like this sense of loss, that I was losing something. But I almost feel with boarding school, what makes it quite complex is that if we come back to the model of PTSD and CPTSD, the idea that if it were to happen once as an 11-year-old, that you suddenly separate from your family and that's it. It'd be like, okay, there's one memory, so that would be PTSD. There's one memory which was really traumatic, leaving home. But what happens is that it happens every 3 weeks. So you feel this, I'm home, oh that's safe, it's good, and then you've got to leave. So it's this loss again, and then again, and again, and again. And I feel that's where it links in with CPTSD, this idea that it's complex, that if you look at on Mind, the organisation, the definition is complex PTSD is an event which happens over and over again. And I feel there are many such events like that which which we've had at boarding school. What was different about this on Saturday is that on my way driving out of Portsmouth, I felt this sadness, and I had a few tears as I was driving, and it was like, oh, it's okay, it's a natural process of grieving, and I let it go, and then I felt very different, kind of moved on. But what happens at boarding school is that those emotions are not accepted. So we stuff them down, we stuff them down, we stuff them down. So not only do we have that sense of loss, but then the emotions, which there's this natural sense of emotion there, that is not allowed to flow. And so we kind of put a lid on it. And therefore, how that turns up in the present world is that we really struggle with change as ex-boarders, because it's like this loss is not just the loss in the moment of someone going away, or, I often hear about ex-boarders saying that when they go away on holiday, it's like, whoa, some form of change, because there's that compounded, this is not the first time this is happening. There is years of loss, repeated and repeated and repeated. So what can we do if we notice that? If we notice, I really struggle leaving home or going off on a work meeting, or maybe coming back to home if I've been away for a few days. And I notice that's something that I sometimes struggle with. I come back home when I've been away and I'm like, oh, my triggers are there. So I might be a bit grumpy or a bit controlling. So what do? Is we bring in mindfulness. You know, I often teach, and this is how I work with a lot of my clients, is just tapping. So in the moment, this is what I feel. Rather than us shaming ourselves for feeling, you shouldn't be feeling this, you're an adult. It's like the unconscious, as Bessel van der Kolk talks about in The Body Knows the Score, this idea that the unconscious doesn't know that time doesn't exist for him, or her, doesn't exist in the unconscious time. So that means that something that happened 30 years ago can feel just as present now in the unconscious. That's why when it comes up, we just tap. We tap through the points and we just give space that this is okay. This is what I feel. I feel this trigger. I feel this loss. And we just give ourselves that space to feel and then let it go. And it's an ongoing journey. I think this is the thing. Sometimes as ex-boarders we're very hard on ourselves and we want to be perfect. You know, that's what we were searching for at school, the perfect, you know, so that we wouldn't get bullied, you know, we would get lots of praise. We were looking for perfect, and we still look for that now. And therefore I feel that sometimes we need to just be gentle with ourselves and go, oh, I'm feeling triggered. I've got another layer coming up, and that's okay. I'm human. I'm okay. Grief, that's part of being human. Crying's okay. Joy's okay. Giving ourselves that space. So, yeah, so just some reflections about loss, bereavement. No more, yeah, I guess it is a bit of bereavement. But also this sense of abandonment. That, yeah, I'm being abandoned here. And it gets repeated over and over again. And so in the present moment, it's just keep meeting, breathing, allowing the emotions up like a river and let them flow. Maybe tears, sadness, anger, and let it flow away in a benevolent way. Okay, so I hope this has been of help. So, yeah, any questions, please do let me know. So, take care. Bye for now.